Hello, everybody, and sorry we're late. A couple of minutes late today. That's because I'm just scoffing down my dinner, which was a toasted peanut butter sandwich and a toasted jam sandwich. There you go. Food of the rich and famous. Well, not rich and not really that famous either. But I was recognised at the Moana Pacifica versus Fijian Drua game this weekend. The Drua media manager guys. Oh, I know you off Twitter. So that was kind of cool. His photo on Twitter looks nothing like him in real life, which is why I didn't recognise him. So there we go. But that was a cool moment. And joining me this evening, I've got Stephen. Any cool moments for you this last weekend?
Well, probably not as not as cited by recognition like yourself, Paul. I've got to say, but I was about to say, I know times are tough, but really, jam and toast and peanut butter on toast for dinner. Well, okay, whatever it takes, I guess. But
so it's times are a bit tough. And I'll be totally honest with you, folks. I wouldn't have made the Moana Pacifica game at the weekend if it wasn't for my parents paying for my petrol. So there you go. It is a bit tight, but hey, it's not a show about Paul's financial and mental health and situations at all. This is a show to talk about the old rugby. Now, I am also going to apologise. Over the next few weeks, I'll be missing a few games, as in not actually at the normal ones I would be in person, because I am working on the census. So I'm one of those people who's walking around getting forms filled in for the next few weeks. So helping maintain one of the institutions that allows the fabric of our society to work, folks. So I won't be at as many games as I would like to over the next sort of 4 weeks or so. But hey, we do have a couple of interviews for you this evening. We've got the post-match interviews from Moana Pacifica versus Fiji and Drua. So both captains and head coaches from those, and we'll play those this evening. Unfortunately, so far I do not have a media accreditation for the Six Nations, so I don't get post-match interviews from those games, unfortunately. But hey, we'll see what we can do. What I've thought, though, and it only occurred to me in the shower a few moments ago, because I've been in pajamas all day, back that whole mental health thing. But what was I going to say? Oh yeah, I think I'm going to get in touch with the Fiji Drua and see, look, do they do Zoom call interviews on a weekly basis for those overseas media? And if so, hopefully we'll be able to bring you a lot more information and coverage from the Fiji Drua. Look, they were a delight to watch at the weekend, weren't they, Stephen?
oh, jeepers. Talk about almost barbarian style football, wasn't it? It was almost like the way Moana Pacific started. You thought it was going to be a long day at the office for the Drua, but there was a reason they got off to that fast start. You always knew the way that the Fijian Drua were basically going to move the ball around, and of course you were there live, but just watching through the television, they certainly look like they've got some really big athletes that can offload. So there'll be definitely an exciting watch in this 2023 Super Rugby.
You're switching on for your cricket, aren't you? It's 2020 cricket for the, or perhaps we have got sped up rugby, and that's what Super Rugby is this year. Yeah, I mean, look, that game at the weekend, the first kick at goal wasn't until the 68th minute, which gives you an idea as to how both sides played it. But that's me diving straight into the games, which we shouldn't really do. But Stephen, so what do you want to do? Do you want to start with Six Nations first or Super Rugby?
I suppose while it's pretty much what's much fresh on the mind, well, I think we'll start with the Six Nations, they call it these days. Yeah, Six Nations they call it these days, because I suppose it was around where we knew probably two of the results would be relatively predictable. I think if we look at it, the rise of Italy showed how competitive they are, and boy, they really made the Irish work hard for a win. Let's just not kid out, putting some very, very good teams away lately, and Italy played very, very well. I suppose that's as good a place to start as well. Paul, that was the first game of the weekend, Italy-Ireland. Good performance overall from the Italians, but we must also mention that the Irish, it wasn't their full strength team. It just shows you that they have got a little bit of depth at the minute.
Yeah, no, Ireland definitely used this game to create some depth and to give some of those players some what's the word I'm looking experience ahead of every World Cup. We remember what's happened to them in competitions, I mean, like 2007, no, 2015, 2007, one of those two, anyway, where Ireland had like 4 or 5 injuries and suddenly they went crashing out at the quarterfinal stages to Argentina to a big score. Why, Bill? Because they lost their key players, which didn't have the depth in place. So very important to give those other players game time. Also, I think pretty important to give Sexton some get him out of the firing line and getting smashed up every weekend as well. So I think it was a good game by them. Look, it was one of those games that you kind of think that Ireland are going to go away with it, and it's going to be an easy one. But look, Italy did really keep in this one. They had to make a lot of tackles. I mean, they had to take more tackles than anybody else, and unsurprisingly, that led to the most number of penalties as well, which is unsurprising when you're under that much pressure. But still, only 10 penalties. I think that's to show how much pressure they're under, or that Ireland puts you under, and to keep it to just 10 is good. If you look at previous games where Wales against Scotland, look at 17. Were there. Wales against Ireland, 16 penalties. So look, I think Italy did well with that one. And remember, it wasn't really until the 71st minute that Ireland put this one to bed. It was still a one-score game up until then. So Italy showing some cracking rugby again. The lowest kicking team in the round, and that's now been 2 rounds they've done that. The opening round, they only had 1 more kick than the least. So they're the team that plays it most with sort of ball in hand. So one of the most exciting teams to be watching play. And Crowley doesn't think that they're overplaying, but I think a lot of if you were to look at the game from a statistical point of view, people would suggest he's going against the trend, isn't he, Stephen?
Yeah, this is very much so. I think he's obviously got the trust of the players now, and I think he's instilled into this Italian team that, listen, we can actually win games. It's not actually about being competitive. And you probably saw the disappointment in one of the previous games that they went down, and you can just see how disappointed as a coach he was, and you actually saw that again from Crowley as well, because there were opportunities there. They, like we said, they stretched Ireland that much that Ross Byrne actually took a penalty shot at goal to stretch it out to 27. Was it 27-20 in the 65th minute? So it just shows you how much respect that the Irish were giving the home side at that point in time of the game. So listen, it's great to see. And listen, they play a brand of rugby that's pretty easy on the eye as well. I think they'll probably look back at this game and look at a couple of opportunities where I can remember one particular cross kick where it was overkicked. It wasn't too well weighted, went over the sideline, where maybe they should have just kept the ball in hand and just trusted their systems for a little bit longer, because you see these teams that can hold on to the ball for long periods, the opportunities will come, and they usually come on the flanks.
And look, in this competition now, so sure, Italy are 0 from 3, but they've played the top 2 teams in the world in Ireland and France. They've also played England at Twickenham, which is a bogey team for them, where they got beaten up by the forwards. Wales next at home, followed by a trip up to Murrayfield to play Scotland. And look, Italy will think that they can get 2 wins out of that. Scotland are playing very well, don't get me wrong, but Scotland will not beat them up in the same way that England did. It's a very different style of game, and that will be one of the most exciting games, I think, of the Six Nations. So if you're looking at getting up early for a game, then look, that Scotland Italy one in round 5 should be an absolute belter. It might not have that much on the line, but it'll be a cracking game to watch nonetheless. Ireland, we said they've gone through. They'll be disappointed with the number of missed tackles there. 27 missed tackles. That is a lot from them, especially as they made less tackles than Italy. So, but they got a lot of players to get experience. So look, they've got the win, and they can move on with that bonus point. Next up, Wales against England. Look, not the best game to watch. Wales again for the third week running have scored the fewest number of points in the Six Nations, and England for the third week running have the worst kicking at goal. And when you think that Andy Farrell is the guy that's doing that kicking, that is an amazing stat. Here we have someone who is kicking at goal was one of his strengths. It was a whole point of one of the sort of hit hard tackling, kicking at goal, and basically just giving the ball for the players was what Andy Farrell was about as a fly half. And to be kicking like this is just not acceptable. Being the captain, though, he's not going to get dropped. But for my mind, I think it could be time for him to go because against Wales, against Italy, they've got away with it. But to miss that many points is in the long run is going to be losing the game, doesn't it, Stephen?
Oh, very much so. In games where it can be tight, and there are times England are more prepared to grind out victories as opposed to playing some open rugby. Listen, just a fellow who's come into the side, and I think he was playing about his 10th or 11th international, the Bath midfielder Ollie Lawrence. I was actually quite impressed with that combination of Lawrence and Slade, even though they didn't see a lot of ball per se, but when the opportunities actually to free backs on the outside, I thought they did things mostly right. But in terms of the English backline, so Freddie Stewart, who's a big fullback boy, he just goes from he's just the rock. He's just a rock at the back in the 15 jersey. I don't know what part of just keep on putting high kicks up to me all day. What sort of tactic Wales were actually thinking at the time, because he pretty much swallowed everything, and he's a pretty physical sort of player. Defensively, he's very good, and of course, I believe he picked up the meat of the match. So for me, he was one real highlight in this particular English performance.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll get back to the comments in the some lovely comments in the live chat, folks. I just want to cover off on something that follow up on what Stephen said there. I think the big difference between England and Wales at the moment is that both got brand new coaching structures. Both of them have perhaps started off disappointingly, but with England, you can actually see that there is something to build on. Right, there is a platform there to build a game from. Is there a game there? Are they the finished article? Not by a million miles, but you've got a good set piece. You've got a powerful set of forwards. You've figured out your midfield combination for the first time in about a decade. So there are the foundations there of something to build on. With Wales, unfortunately, they're not looking good. They're old players who Gatland tried to start off with are not producing the goods and not stepping up. So you've got a whole bunch of young players coming in who just don't have the experience at this level. They're coming into a losing environment, and you look at what Wales have got. They've got Italy coming up, and then they've got France. Right, France is a game they're going to lose. Let's be blunt about that. And Italy, they could lose that one as well. So they could end up with a wooden spoon here. Wales, really, you're struggling to find any positives. There were positives in the opening game where they had opportunities, but the combinations were not there, and they were dropping balls. Since then, though, there's not even that for Wales, and it's been two pretty dire performances. If England didn't turn over the ball, I've added an extra column here in turnovers, which I haven't been looking at before, because I noticed England made 21 turnovers in this game, to just 9 by Wales. And they missed, as I say, most of their kicks at goal. They left 8 or so points out in the park there. They tried to keep Wales in this game, and Wales still never looked like winning. So yeah, it's a real sad place for Gatland, isn't it, Steve?
Yeah, very much so. And the really scary thing about it as well, some of their better performance are those veterans. You look at the likes of Ken Owens, the skipper, who's 36 years old. Alan Wynne-Jones, 37 years old. Justin Tipurick is 33 years old. Lee Halfpenny at the back is 34 years old. They've got a real dad's army look about it. But, to be fair, and, Falatau, who's the Talopi Falatau, who's the number 8. I mean, to say those guys, gee, they've been around for a decade. Some of those players, and you kind of look around. There's Reece Zammit, who's a good footballer, but he's also probably a footballer who's probably lacking a little bit of confidence because he hasn't got a lot around him.
And he's also been out injured as well, coming back in. So it's going to take him time. I mean, one of the big differences between Wales and Scotland I saw the previous round was that when there was that offload near the line, the Scottish players were expecting it and were there ready to receive it. Whereas your Kieran Dwyer, look, young player, lots of potential, but again, he just wasn't there, wasn't aware of it, wasn't expecting it, and those sort of connections just are not there for that. So that was that game there. Let's have a quick look at some of the comments in the chat. Now, I'm going to apologise straight away because my pronunciation of names is appalling. Is it Ele Fatai? I think it is. Stephen, do you want to correct me?
That's Esili Fatai.
Thank you. Esili Fatai. Thank you so much for your kind comments in the live chat there. Is there a way to get this New Zealand Sport Radio funded? Look, what you can do is you can go to patreon.com/NZ Sport Radio. And you can make a monthly donation to the show to help us out with tech and petrol and stuff if you would like to. We are very thankful to all the Patreons who do that currently and have done for a number of years now. But look, we've tried to get in touch with Sky and people like that, and they're not interested. So, hey, we do our bit. We try and get along to games. I was one of only 3 reporters covering the Moana Pacifica Fiji and Drua game. So look, we try and provide that coverage that just I hate using the term mainstream media because it's got all sorts of connotations nowadays. But that your stuffs and your New Zealand Heralds and stuff like that, who just don't have and all your TV news, people just don't seem to have the funds or budget or will to cover at the moment. He says that Ireland versus France was the game of the round. It certainly was, and we'll be getting onto that in a second. Simon Hughes says he always thought that Kieran Crowley had been badly treated by Canada in 2015. Yeah, well, Canada's got a history of that, hasn't it? Of badly treating its players and coaches. So not really surprising there with that one as the mess up. And sorry if I got Owen and Aaron and Andy mixed up there. Perhaps I'll just say Farrell from now on. And that one. And so you think, am I saying that Wales should be relegated to the European Rugby Championship and replaced by Georgia or Portugal or Romania? Hey, maybe it's time for them to go. Ireland.
We apologise to anybody from Wales tuning into the show.
Well, we see. Look, if you persist with Italy, eventually they get it right. So I think actually, look, what's happening with Italy now? Actually, that was said tongue in cheek, obviously. But what you can see happening with Italy now is exactly why they should not have been relegated in the past 5 or so years. Otherwise, they would not be in the situation they are now. And I think that's so. To my mind, I think that they're justifying that and shutting up a lot of people who have bashed them in the past. There with that one, go on, Stephen.
Yep, I've got to eat a lot of humble pie on that as well. There were times I really did wonder about the participation in the Six Nations. What I didn't realise was the really, really good work that was going down at junior level, and of course with their clubs. And you can see how competitive their junior team is at the under 20 level as well. We might have those latest results for you as well, because I believe they played the 3rd round of the under 20s on the weekend. But before we do that, we'll get on to what was the game of the round this morning, Paul.
Yeah, it was. I got up and watched the first half before falling asleep, having to watch the second half recorded. But Stephen, you got up and watched the whole thing, so you saw it live. And again, another game that whilst the scoreboard tells us it was an 11-point win, It wasn't until the buzzer that this stopped being a 1-point game and being a real close one.
Oh, absolutely. And for once, I've got to say, despite there being 2 red cards, we're actually not talking about those particular cards, because both cards were deserved at the end of the day. It was helter-skelter. And,
And just very quick before we go on, red cards don't ruin games, folks. It was a cracker.
Well, probably because both teams, we were still numerically even, should I say, we're both teams. But, even though France got out of the blocks, you just had a funny feeling if Scotland could stay in the fight. And I just suspect they probably were the fitter and more mobile team. But at the end of the day, really, it just came down to just being able to take those opportunities inside the red zone. We've got our own rugby chat line, and John O'Connor, our learned South African, who appears on the show every now and again, pretty much made the point about France's actual superpower is their conversion rate when they get in the red zone, and he made the mention that they are ruthless, and that's very much so. That's what it came down to, because if Scotland had taken their opportunities, this result could have been completely different.
Yeah, but look at that. It's again another one of those. It was one of those ones where you see, for me, France kind of had this one always under control. That their bigger forwards were always getting over the gain line, whereas Scotland were struggling at times to get over that gain line and were losing the ruck some more frequently than France. France really looked after that one. And you can tell that by the number of turnovers. There are 7 turnovers for France, 17 for Scotland. Shows that Scotland weren't able to look after the ruck properly or as well as they want to. Now, it doesn't help when you've had to take your 7 off in Hamish Watson early on because of that. Because of the red card, I think it was. He left pretty early. Now he's only coming back from injury, so I can understand why he was the guy that was sacrificed. And your 70 guy, I mean, another thing that John will tell you is your open side flanker. His job isn't stealing the ball. His job is looking after your ball. And Scotland really missed that this morning. The French defence, fantastic. And you see, look at the Scotland only made 3 line breaks in this entire game. And when you think they made 8 line breaks against England to be the most line breaks in round 1, they can do that. They can open up teams, but they struggled in this one. Some of the some of the stats. I mean, that France again were 10 penalties. It's the most by anybody, but 10 penalties is actually kind of par. Most coaches are happy if you keep it to single figures. So 10 is pretty much nearly single figures. So that's as bad as you want to get. So for a round where no one gave up more than 10 penalties, it was a very clean round. Discipline wasn't a big issue. Also, set piece was great. Nobody lost more than one of their own lineouts as well. So why we've not sort of pointed out who had the best lineouts, because that was also solid. So it was a cracking round of rugby from those sort of pieces that the coaches will be very happy with.
I've got to say, it's not often that you probably get the 2 best players on the field with the respective centres. Of course, Gail Ficou, who actually ended up picking the man of the match, and deservedly so. But boy, Hugh Jones, I thought, wasn't too far behind him. For a big guy, he can certainly shift, and he knows how to beat a tackle. I thought he was very good. I thought the French did a very good job in looking after Van der Merwe on this occasion. They've obviously seen how in good a form he's been in the first couple of rounds or so. But I just thought at times Finn Russell and Hogg probably outplayed by their opposites when it really mattered. Into Mac and also Ramos at the back, I thought was very, very good for the French. And you did right, Paul. It almost felt like they had Scotland at arm's length. Shall I say?
A bit big brother, little brother kind of thing.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And boy, when it did get tight, didn't they put some pressure on? They kicked long. They just changed their tactics a little bit. They went back to some driving play, and they just put pressure on in the air and just forced Scotland to play inside their 22. And then they made a mistake. And really, at the end of the day, that was probably just reward right at the end. That tried to go off the kill. And that all just really came through being in the right place, playing the game at the right end.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that people have been saying about France is one of the teams that kick the most out of any team in World Rugby. And yet, if you look, the opening round, they kicked the least. This round again, 26 kicks. That's not a crazy number by any stretch of imagination. One of the things, if you've been listening to the Eddie Jones has got his own podcast now, which is a cracking listen. And one of the things he said about France was that they are look, they're reinventing, or they're trying to expand or change their game ahead of the Rugby World Cup. So they're not as slick as they have been. Look, they didn't lose a game all last year, but but I think they are trying new things out, and we're seeing, and that's slowly coming together, which is very concerning for everybody else when it comes to the Rugby World Cup that's coming up.
Is there a degree of foxing going on with the French at the minute, Paul?
Oh, absolutely. Well, I think that whether it's foxing or whether it's trying to change their game plan a bit to become more expansive, there's two ways of arguing about it. But yes, I think there is. I think there's a lot to come, and you're not learning, and they're going to be a very different team come Rugby World Cup than they were last year, for certain. So there you go. That's the Six Nations. I don't have the under-20s results. Do you have them there, Stephen? I've not. It's not a competition I've been keeping much of an eye on. I'll be honest.
I have been keeping an eye on it. I may have the results very shortly. In fact, I'm just waiting for this to refresh, and once it comes up, I'll have the results for the weekend. Obviously, it doesn't work as fast as a
how anybody can accuse us of not being prepared. I don't know.
Oh, plenty can accuse us of not being prepared. And those results, I've got those results right here from the weekend. Of course, England too good for Wales, 37-21. Ireland 44-27. Actually, this could be the results from a couple of weeks ago, now that I think about it. In France 54, Scotland 12. I think that was from the previous round. So
no, that's because they marry, or they are the same fixtures in the main competitions they are in the under-20s. So yeah, that is the same. That is this round, because obviously France played Scotland in the in this one.
Well, there you go. Ireland. England too strong for Wales, 37-21. Ireland too strong for Italy, 44-27. So, well, they all look like pretty entertaining games. And France under 20s, I actually saw a little bit of this, maybe the last 20 minutes or so. France 54, Scotland 12. So that was on the weekend. But of course, still a couple of rounds to come in this competition, and I think Ireland and France. France and Ireland. Beg your pardon. The teams to watch. I'm actually just trying to fresh the results and also the tables, which I can't find at the moment. So I do apologise. All
good. So let's before we move on to Super Rugby, let's have a quick chat about some of the news that's going on. So I talked about Eddie Jones. Well, he's pretty much had a coaching clear out, hasn't he? Since he's arrived at the Wallabies. So look, he's saying that, I think, I forgot what he said during his the podcast. I think it was like 1st of March or something like that, or by the end of March. So look, he's looking at putting together his coaching team. So a bit of shame that players that coaches like Laurie Fisher and stuff have not been kept on, but they've who've been doing a great job down there at the Brumbies. So, but someone that I'm not really know much about, but former State of Origin fullback Brett Hodgson is apparently going to be the Australia's new defence coach. Perhaps we should be talking with the guys from the Standoff Show. That's about NRL, which is on a Wednesday night at 8 p.m. folks, about him. But Stephen, anyone that you recognise, or should the Wallabies fans be concerned that Eddie Jones doesn't have a coaching team at the moment?
Yeah, listen, I suppose not. We all know what sort of character is it? He is. He's larger than life, isn't he? You've got to say, and he obviously wants to do it the Eddie Jones way. You know, Brent Hodgson, ex NRL player. Obviously, he's obviously looking for either maybe attack. I'm thinking, or a different way of attacking. I can only assume at this stage. Yeah, you know, he's certainly getting around. You know, we'll get to Super Rugby in a moment. He's certainly getting around the games, and he's also sort of putting it out there. You know, he's also mentioned a couple. There's a couple. I see a couple of NRL players that have kind of been mentioned in dispatches that I'm pretty sure Eddie would love to get his hands on. But
Look,
yeah, only time will tell.
Some of the good things he's doing. He's getting back to club rugby. He's getting around the games. And one of the things he says is, look, if you can watch games on TV, but if you're watching in person, he said, look, a player might only touch the ball 6 times in a game. So it's most of the time that they're playing. It's what they do off the ball, not on the ball. There's the reason you pick them. So which was a kind of a real interesting comment where you're looking at work rate. Do they get up off the ball and get back on side as quickly as possible to be in that defensive line? Do they get angry when they don't get passed to and shout at their teammates, or do they encourage them when another teammate drops the ball? All those kind of things are stuff that he's looking at when he's at games, which I thought was really kind of interesting. That's why he's at so many games. Plus, also he's at the club at club rugby and stuff like that because it's again he's looking at growing the. He understands that rugby union is the 4th kind of contact sport or rugby sport, maybe 5th actually football sport if you include soccer in Australia, and that they need to increase that the number of supporters, and he's making an effort to do that and connect with those people, and he realizes that's part of the Wallabies manager's job, which I think is probably perhaps where Dave Rennie didn't understand culturally what is needed from the Wallabies coach outside of coaching the actual team. That's also why probably Eddie's doing the podcast as well, to connect with those people. Nocturnal Right says Eddie will be disappointed with the fitness of the teams in the first week. Oh, well, I'll listen to the show and we'll let you know next week what he's said. Other bits interesting that the Springboks looking at getting Nigel Owens on their World Cup coaching team. Like it's not the first time that international teams have had ex-coaches or ex referees or current referees as advisors. So look, good move from them. You want someone like that, but to me, that's a bit of a by choosing Nigel Owens thing. That's a bit of a kind of publicity thing rather than necessarily because I want a referee.
I actually thought the South African coaches would have just advertised for one of their supporters as a possible referee pool.
No, it's that physio water lady that's on the sideline. That's the best referee in the world.
It's bad.
That one. Apparently, the LA Sevens were on the weekend, and the All Blacks beat Argentina. So congratulations to them in that one. I have not kept an eye on the Sevens. Stephen, you seem to keep an eye on everything. Have you? Did you keep an eye on the Sevens?
Yes, I did. I actually caught the final this afternoon. I just happened to be in the right place at the right time, and it was on a screen. So I decided because the Sevens only takes 14 minutes or quarter of an hour tops, I decided to watch the game, and very good victory from this New Zealand team, because if you recall in round robin they were beaten by seems to be a bit of a nemesis for the Black Sevens teams this year, and that's the Samoan Sevens team, but they came through in the end and beat Argentina 22-12 in the final. So good performance from the New Zealanders. They also took out their crosstown rivals across the ditch, Australia 33-17 in the semi-final, and earlier in the in the quarterfinals. They beat Great Britain 24-7. But just remember, in round robin, they were beaten by Samoa. But the result of that win has left the New Zealand team in a very, very good position, puts them well and truly ensconced in first place, sitting on 107 points. And that's still with not too many tournaments to go, Paul. I'm just trying to look through the list of tournaments to come, but unfortunately it hasn't refreshed. The next team is Argentina on 86 points. Argentina and South Africa both on 86 points. So that's another 20. They've 21 points ahead of their nearest rivals, and Fiji, who have just slipped into fourth place, are on 84, but you would not count them out. These tournaments, things can change so quickly. And once again, with this New Zealand team, congratulations also to the player of the tournament for New Zealand, and he scored 2 tries. That's Leroy Carter, named the player of the tournament. Man from Bay of Plenty, plays on the wing for the Steamers, doesn't he? But can play halfback as well.
Yeah, look, there's both the Black Ferns Sevens and the All Black Sevens both after a couple of years where it looked like New Zealand might be sort of slipping back in the Sevens, have really stepped it back up again and are playing some cracking rugby and getting some cracking results at the moment. So well done to them. Let's move on to Super Rugby Aupaki then. Look, we're running long, folks, so we're going to have to zoom through this because we've got, 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever it is, 7 odd games, I think it is, from 6 or 7 games from Super Rugby, and then also 2 games Super Rugby Aupaki to try and cover. So we're running long. 2 results for the weekend: the Hurricanes versus the Chiefs, 21-53. Look, dominant win by the Chiefs. Manoa. They've never lost a game in their entire existence. That includes exhibition games. That includes pre-seasons, games of 3 halves. They've won both halves. A cracking team that continued their good form with that big win over the Hurricanes. Look, they're going to be the team to beat yet again in that one, even though they've changed coaching structures. Nothing seems to phase them, and on they march.
Pretty impressive too. Quite tight at halftime, wasn't it, Paul? But what was that? 52-31. What 31 unanswered
21-22 at halftime, but the Hurricanes didn't get to score in the second half.
Yeah, 31 unanswered points. So crazy. Not helping their cause though. Crystal Murray getting a yellow card, which basically gave the Chiefs Manoa an opportunity just to score before half time, or else it looks like the Hurricanes may have went into half time with the lead, not for that yellow card. But definitely the team to beat. And
then the Matatu versus the Blues. Now, look, I had money on the Blues to win this one because Matatu, whilst the Canterbury have been the dominant force in the Farah Palmer Cup over the last decade, last year they were they were very disappointing in this competition. To be honest, this year a much better showing by them, rushing out to a 19-0 lead leading 26-14 at half time. They stretched that to 31-14 after 5 minutes into the second half, and then the Blues made a determined comeback. Only a missed conversion after the hooter stopped them from drawing this game. So some question marks definitely about Matatu's fitness, I think, and that'll be something it's difficult to work on in a short period of time. But the yellow card to Bremner on 49 minutes didn't help things, but that doesn't excuse that giving up 3 tries and a conversion to allow a team back when you've got such a strong lead, Stephen.
Oh, absolutely. But I'll tell you what, I thought the Blues actually got real good value from their bench, the players who actually came on, added a lot. That's Malepour, who came on. She's a back, a midfielder, Tara Turner, who we saw playing for the Northern Kauri in the 22 Whanapama Cup. I thought she had, and of course Fisher, who scored the last Blues try. Unfortunately, Ruhei Demont, those two missed conversions, I suppose at the end of the day were the difference. Paul, even if she'd kicked one of them, they would have got them to extra time, and I almost felt that they had the momentum at that particular time. But listen, I think Matatu had done enough to win the game. But all around a good game of footy. I must admit, I was hopping between that particular game, and also the Fijian Endrua Moana Pacifica game. So plenty of tries, no matter which screen you were looking at.
Yeah, I was driving and then obviously at the game for these two, so unfortunately didn't get to watch these two live. And with so much rugby on, it's been hard to catch up on games as well for me. So unfortunately, I didn't see those. Next up, though, next weekend, the Blues host the Chiefs, which would be a cracking game. Look, the Blues. Battle of the Bombays, all that kind of stuff. But also, the Blues have been traditionally the second strongest team in this competition. So they're the ones that have played the Chiefs the most number of times. There's a bit of a rivalry going on there. So that'll be a cracking game at 2:00 on Saturday, and then at 4:45 on Saturday, Mata'atu host the Hurricanes. Boy, oh boy, the Hurricanes are in for a tough time there, I think, in that one. But that's round two in a blink and you miss it competition. So that'll be so keep an eye out for that this coming weekend. Moving on then to the Super Rugby Pacifica. Or Pacific, sorry, not Pacifica, get the right way around. Looking at the games here, we kicked off on Friday night with the Crusaders versus the Chiefs. Just like I've been doing for the Six Nations, I've chosen a bunch of stats to look at and highlighted who is the best and worst each round. And if you came into this round and I told you that over half of the red boxes would be for the Crusaders as being the worst team of the round, Stephen, I don't think many people would have believed me.
No, not many people would have believed you at all. I must admit, I'm actually going to give myself a bit of a pat on the back. I actually picked this particular upset. What I didn't pick was the margin. I actually had it at 12 and under, and I just, I saw something in the Chiefs the week before when they played the Blues. They just looked like they had so much about their attack, a lot of variety about their attack, and I was just impressed with the way some of their key guys, especially the likes of Brodie Retallick, looked like he was heading back towards his very, very best. And I think it was one of these games where I think they probably rattled the Crusaders a bit, Paul. A couple of times they took quick taps as opposed to going to the Crusaders' strength, which is a set piece. The set piece structure. They know how to defend, and I think it probably just upped it upset the apple cart a wee bit, and hence all those stats you see in the red.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I mean, Josh, Nocturne Rights goes, this was a great advert for Rugby in Christchurch. And I've heard lots of people say how wonderful this game was, how much people enjoyed watching it. Then I'm looking at it going, guys, the Chiefs only won, not the Chiefs, the Blues. I've gone and got the Chiefs only won 2 out of 6 scrums. That is appalling. Turnovers, we had 20 turnovers from the Crusaders, 16 from the Chiefs. There was a lot of poor rugby in this. Yes, it was helter-skelter. Yes, the pace was there. Yes, it was fun and exciting. But there was both coaches will not be happy with the performances. Richard Mwanga, only 50% kicking posts. Again, something that you don't expect him. There was a lot of rustiness in this game. I think you can tell the All Blacks players have had very, very short, if any, kind of pre-season at all. Josh Ioane coming back in at 10. I didn't see that one, to be honest. I thought that I thought he was behind Gatland, but he did have a cracking game there. Kane and Brodie did have big games. Nocturne Rights, it's the pace ball with skill. Mistakes happen at that rate. Well, maybe I think that's early season rustiness that players will need to get rid of. Personally, but there you go.
I think that the Chiefs just had a really good synergy, and just some of their key guys, their key All Blacks, were very, very good up in the in the pack. Takiaho, he always gives you gain line. He's just got this incredible ability to just beat the first tackle. We're blessed with a couple of powerful ball running hookers at the minute, but he's probably one of the best, if not the best, in terms of ball carrying hooker in the world at the minute, especially carrying into places where there are no gaps, Paul. There's one thing to be a hooker where, for example, somebody like Ash Dixon, who's not a big hooker, used to run great lines. But Takiaho just seems to be able to find a weak shoulder and find a way through. And I thought Brodie Retallick, boy, just starting to hit some of the form that we know that he's capable of. You're throwing the likes of Tupu Vai, and I thought Jacobson was quite solid at the back, and even Sam Cane, apart from one real faux pas where he probably knew he was having a crack and might get away with it, but he didn't. Getting that card for cynical. In the main, the forward pack, I thought really laid the foundation, and quite like you say, the scrums weren't the best, but we kind of expected that. That's nothing new really when it comes to the Crusaders scrum. But boy, the Chiefs have certainly put down a template on how to play the Crusaders.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, and Sam Cane did say after the game when in post-match interview saying, "Oh, look, you played the full 80." He goes, "Well, no, 70 really." He said that going to help to the fitness on that one. I'm also going to call bullshit on some of the comments around that the Crusaders traditionally start slowly, and is an old cliche or caricature from Blackadder's era. Blackadder, yes, under Blackadder the Crusaders started slowly. I remember them losing at home to the Rebels, because the Rebels their first ever overseas win, for example. But here is the opening game of every single competition that the Crusaders have played whilst they've been coached by Razor. And as you can see, this is the first time this is the first time under him that they have lost their opening game. Every single other time they've won the opening game of the competition. So I'm sorry, it's a tired and old comment to say that the Crusaders are slow starters, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
Nocturnal writes, Crusaders' bulk was exposed because of the pace. Their set piece was upset by the ref having no time wasting. Wow, it's you kind of that's a bit. You trying to think the Crusaders a cynical slow team. I'm not sure that's maybe when it's the opposition ball, that's what they do.
Yeah, I was going to say, Paul, the other thing that we probably shouldn't forget as well. Boy, they're missing a couple of world class players and Will Jordan. We could look to the other side and say what a fantastic game Sean Stevenson, especially, and the outside backs had. He was absolutely colossus for the Chiefs. But when you lose somebody of Will Jordan's ability, and then of course Sam Whitelock, who pulled out leading up to the match, boy, that's a lot of quality to lose. And and I think from Whitelock's perspective, just that leadership point of view.
Yeah. But you're right about Sean Stevenson, a player that we've talked about and said that he a guy who really stepped his game up last season. Moving on then, the Waratahs versus the Brumbies. In this one, Brumbies, look, their efficient, normal self seeing off the Waratahs, the fewest penalties, so discipline was good. The set piece working well. Sure, they lost a couple of scrums and a couple of lineouts, but overall working well there. Kicking 21-15 by the Waratahs, so controlling where the game was played. Good game by the Brumbies to continue to show that they are the top team over there in Australia. Really?
Yep. Oh, very much so. And I thought their loose forward trio of Scott, Pete Samu, and Valentini, especially, who always seems to get a motor over the game line, and when he doesn't get over the game line, you need about 3 or 4 guys on him. I thought they were pretty outstanding, and new to this level of rugby as former Sevens player Tooley out on the wing. boy, he's got some wheels, hasn't he? And looked a very, very good player. I had a bit of an interest in this. Obviously, Jack Debrasini and Tamati Tua, who played for Northland in the Bunnings NPC last year. Good sort of solid debut. And I thought Jack Debrasini, while he was on, seemed to run the cutter pretty well. Just in terms of the Waratahs, before we moved on, like the look of Jorgensen as well, another player out of sevens. The sevens cut, but I do wonder if the Waratahs actually got their loose forward mix right, having 2 sevens on the field, and Charlie Gamble and Michael Hooper. I thought it would have been better to have started with Will Harris, the number 8, who I thought had a pretty useful sort of season for the Waratahs in 2022. So for me, a bit of an odd decision.
Yeah, especially as the way the game is going, you're seeing more locks play at 6. It's the 2 sevens thing, I think, is something that's has seen its day at the moment on this one. Moving on then to Saturday, to Moana Pacifica versus the Fijian Drua, which is the game that I was at. Look, a horrible start by the Drua, kicking the ball out on the full just to start the game off, and then suddenly it's 12-0 after only 7 minutes by Moana. And Moana, look, they needed to be picking up those points, because whenever the Drua got the ball in, especially outside of their own 22, anywhere from sort of like their own 10-meter line forwards, they seem to come away with points. Tackles or defense for both these two teams will be something that's on their list, because look, if it hadn't been for the horror show of the Crusaders' defense, one of these guys would probably be picking up some red marks around the missed tackles on that one. To be fair to the Fijian Drua, look, only 9 turnovers, and that was so ball retention really good. And as I say, whenever they got that ball in the right part of the pitch, or basically anywhere forwards, they came away with points. So good on that point of view. Good line out from the Moana Pacifica, 7 from 11 on the old scrums by Fijian Drua. Yeah, we know forwards perhaps in the tight isn't necessarily their biggest suit. And this was a game with the least kicks of any of the games. So yes, it was a cracking game to watch, as both sides were happy to hold onto the ball and try and maintain possession. But at the end of the day, execution from Moana Pacifica was they needed to get those. They needed to, every time they went into the 22, they needed to come away with a try, because the Fijian Drua weren't going to give up the ball, and the Moana Pacifica just couldn't turn it over. Essentially, was the problem for them in this one. A couple of comments before we hit the post-match interviews.
No, good fun game. I'll tell you what, though, a real improvement in the Drua's line out. You know, there were times probably we watched them during the 2022 season was an area that they always struggled, seemed to get a bit of field position, and then just basically lose the line out. So yeah, it was great to see, but I really enjoyed what I enjoyed about this game was their offloading. It was crazy good at times.
Yeah, well, here we go. Here's the winning team first up. He says, and then he doesn't play. Try again. Okay, we'll try one more time to get the video playing, folks. And if it doesn't, then unfortunately, I'm afraid we'll have to skip those interviews, and I'll have to do it from memory as to some of the things that was said during that one. Here's the Moana Pacifica version first.
That would have stung, I guess, closest loss in the history of the club. Like, is this a new feeling for you guys, getting sort of robbed like that in a way?
I don't think we were robbed. I think the Drua deserved to win.
Sure.
They took their opportunities, and we knew that they were dangerous if we give them the opportunities, and we just gave them too many. I think we had opportunities we put them away in the first half, didn't control the game well enough in some key moments in that first half, and a little bit of discipline as well allowed them back into the game. Could have quite easily gone in 19-0, 24-0 at half time if we'd nailed our own stuff. So we've got to be better there.
Yeah, there was that early really sort of strong period. You guys came out of the box, great, but yeah, I guess didn't put enough points on the board in the end during that sort of dominant period.
I think we put enough points on the ball. We just let too many in through our own errors. So I think we've got to give credit to the draw as well, and probably first and foremost, what a celebration for both teams to play a game of that level. I think both teams have really stepped up from last year and proved once again that we belong here, and I think both teams will cause most opposition some stress this year.
In that first half, we saw that sort of the tap and go near your line, which was dropped. Was it perhaps a little bit of getting suckered into the pace of the game and perhaps not enough composure today?
Yeah, absolutely. There was a lack of composure, and it hurt us.
Yeah. No. We talked about you had a debutant at number 8 this year who's come in from club rugby, effectively. Most carries, most yards. Must be impressed with how he stood up to this new level of rugby.
Yeah, that's why we picked them. So we got that one right. Yeah, no, I thought he was just outstanding today. Really proud of Jonah. Before he took the field, he really earned that number 8 jersey, and he proved why today with an all-round outstanding performance. Got cut up, went back on, and gave us some more at the end. So couldn't have asked for much more. He did his part.
And early disruptions, you two kind of having to replace your props that you named midweek, then to have them up front. Both of those two guys seem to handle that change very well.
Vehicle lockdown has now been lifted.
It actually wasn't a distraction for us or a disruption. I thought Chris and Abraham were outstanding coming in, and that probably shows how far we've come as a squad, the maturity for those guys to come straight in and perform at a high level. And I thought both Suetena and Tau were outstanding off the bench. I think both of those games we played their best game of footy at this level off the bench, so lots of pleasing things for us as well.
So yeah, so running long on time. So if you want to watch that whole interview, you can catch it over on New Zealand Sport Radio's Facebook page there. But as you can see, when I mentioned the composure thing, it was very much a yes, we lacked composure. Not happy around that side of their game, I don't think. But that they've unearthed a player that you had a chat with after the Northland Club finals last year, Stephen Jonah, someone who you thought perhaps didn't quite have the size for number 8, but hey, boy, he had a cracking game.
Wow, you've got to eat a bit of humble pie there, because we did see, Jonah had an outstanding club season for Waipu in 2022, and because of those outstanding club performances, was picked for Northland, but primarily as a 7. And to be fair, he did a very, very good job. So I expected him to be in that 7. But one thing he does, he kind of belies his size, Paul. He, like you say, he's not the biggest, but boy, he just knows how to gain meters. So he's obviously very powerful through the league. So I know that his family, who I follow on Facebook, are extremely proud of his efforts, and good luck to Jonah. Not just good for Jonah, but I think it's a good thing for the Northern Taniwha Rugby, who he's re-signed with for the 2023 season.
Yeah, look at and it's good to see that more are out there looking at these kind of players. Yes, they've got some miracle over from the combine that they held in the Pacific Islands, but also to pick him up as well. Now, Jonah's only on a injury replacement contract at the moment. He's not even on a full Super Rugby contract, but he's got the starting jersey. So if he keeps those performances up, he won't be going back to club rugby anytime soon. Let's be honest with that one. Okay, so we'll try again. And also, yeah, that disruption of losing both your props ahead of the game, as he says, shows that how far they've come, or so far already. So one more to go at the other video from the Drua.
For both of you, I guess, how pleasing was it to finish off a close one? Like, there are a few games that could have gone your way last year, which didn't quite, but yeah, to stick with it and get the result in the end must be pleasing.
Very pleasing. When you can come in your first game of the year against two sides that are in their second season and really get stuck into each other, and to come away with the win is very pleasing. Lots of things we can do better and we can learn from, but taking the win is a great thing.
To go down and have that difficult start that you guys had, but to come back shows a lot of character in the side as well. Happy with how they didn't let heads drop.
Yeah, that's probably one of the most pleasing things for us, is that the belief they're building in themselves to keep going and keep coming at it. They were really well led by my right hand man here, and they got in behind him at the end there, and that just shows the character that's building in the team and the belief that they're getting in themselves. So that was very pleasing.
And happy with how your players were I guess, expressing themselves. You managed to the connectivity between the team, and to get those sort of offloads shows the guys were in sync a lot, because you did some wonderful tries out there today.
Yeah, as we said, we've been through pre-season for 17 weeks. We've worked hard, and we didn't start the game well, but then when we started to play our game, things just flowed, and that's what you saw outside today.
Can you speak on the impact that your bench had today coming on and so at the second half, just to even push more in terms of the team's performance today?
Yeah, I think when the bench comes on, you want them to come on and go, and they did that today. I thought the two big boys up front held their own at scrum time and worked hard around the field. And then, when Elliot came on, created a little bit of urgency around our ball carry. And then, of course, young Taniela on the wing. You can't ask for more impact from a young player in his first game than to score the winning try. That's fairly impactful. So it was great to see.
Can you speak on the importance of his debut today and how much that meant to him and his family?
Oh, look, it's enormous. A couple of years ago he wasn't playing. He just gives everything he's got, as you saw out there. And on Tuesday he was in our academy program, and through a couple of injuries during the week. On Wednesday we spoke to him, and he became a fully fledged Enduro player on Wednesday. And the boys got around him. I think they got around him as well as they've got around anyone, and it just made it easy for him to come over here and feel part of the team. And of course he's done what he's done today, so that's going to build great confidence for him.
You'll see for Massey's first game as well, couple tries, I think. How good to have a player of that talent choose to come back to the island, base himself in Fiji and play for Enduro.
Yeah, I think that's the pleasing thing, is he's come out today and he's done really well, but he'd left and pursued a career, and he chose to come back and be part of Enduro, and as we're building for the future, I think that's a really pleasing thing for us. And then to see him come and do what he did, we know he's a talent. He played league, he's come back, he's gone to the sevens, then he's come back in with us, and he has an ability to break a tackle. There's no question about that, and he did it today really well.
Especially in that first half, you had a number of opportunities to go for posts. You didn't. You kept persevering with the taps just 5 metres out. Was that you reading the game, or is that a new tactic or style of play you guys are trying to look to have?
No, during the game I felt that after the start they tried to leg off, and I know that the boys had it in them to score tries. That's why I chose to do the tap moves, because it worked. You saw, we scored a few tries off it. Yeah, thanks to the boys for working hard.
And very happy with not only were the boys up front doing the hard work, but also running in from 22 as well for a try. So happy with that. Happy with the pace as well.
Yeah.
Was it 22? You'd probably be halfway by the end of the night.
Can you speak to the importance of the support from the fans and the Fiji community and how much they sort of tested such hard boys through?
It was great. The bus came in the driveway at the back of the road, and all we saw were Enduro and Fiji jerseys. And it was really inspiring for the boys. Our Fiji community, they come out everywhere we are in the world, and it was great again today. And I've said many times to the boys, it's been Super Rugby for 30 years, but it's only been Super Rugby Pacific for 1 year, and today we saw why. It's called Super Rugby Pacific. The islands are on show today, and they play their footy. They play to score tries, they play to enjoy, they play to entertain, and the crowds will come and watch that.
Yeah, and to me, what's it like for you to have that support, even when you guys are away from home, to
I think it gives us a lot of confidence, and personally, I think we have the best supporters and crowd, especially when we're in Fiji. And it's pleasing to see when we come out here in Auckland, where it's their home game and we got more supporters. So I think it gives the boys more courage to play out there and do their best.
So how has it felt? You say 17 weeks of pre-season. It's actually been in Fiji rather than in Australia. You're actually you're going to have your game, all your home games sort of in Fiji. How has that felt? How's the culture? How's the kind of atmosphere around the squad been? And what does that mean for you and the families?
I said last year was our first year in Super Rugby. Most of the boys first year in professional rugby. So coming to the second year, I think the boys have adapted, and it's good to be home, be near family. Last year when we were in Lennox, it was just the boys. We see each other every morning, train, then we go back, we see each other till dinner, then we sleep again in the same room, same house. So it's good now we're based back in Fiji, and we live with our families, get to see our loved ones, and I think it's good for the team.
And having had the players, you say, professionals first time last year, this year, they've got that experience behind them. How much easier has that been for you to sort of, I guess, not have to so much groundwork at the beginning of pre-season and actually get into real training you wanted to do this year?
I think the credit goes to the boys for they turn up every day to get better, and they're well led. You know, we've got a great leadership group, and Tavita's been leading that all the way through, and we're a lot more disciplined around our behaviours, which is just a learning thing. So you know they've adapted well to living at home. It's a challenge when you first come home to get back home, and then all your friends and everyone else has got one lifestyle and you're trying to adapt to another lifestyle. And our boys have really embraced that, and they've adjusted really well. And they're only going to get better from it. And we'll just keep working away and helping them, education around how to prepare and things like that. But the credit belongs to the boys for getting up every day and doing it.
And the rest of that interview you can catch again on the Facebook page. But there's some. I wanted to get to that last comment because I think there's too much expectation, I feel, on these two teams. When you look at that, how a bunch of these guys have never been professional before. Last year, he doesn't quite say it, but obviously English is second language. But you can tell there that there was an element of cabin fever last year. About the guys just being totally around each other the whole time and not being able to let out steam, and that obviously hasn't helped. This year, a different set of challenges: being at home with mum's cooking and having to say, no, mum, I can't eat all that stuff. You've got to look, and learning how to be a professional. Clearly, there's more work to do there, but boy, oh boy, we're starting. This is why this team is going to grow and grow year on year because they are learning a lot. And
I was going to say, there's something quite incredible to see a hooker. Tavita Ikaniveri is not only obviously got the trust of the rest of the players around him, but when he can do inspirational things like bolt 20 odd meters and outpace a few backs, that's pretty inspirational as well. Well, Paul, but you are dead right. I just just around the social traps or social networks, I thought people were very hard on these guys at time. Like I said, I always made the point, even about Moana Pacifica, these teams were put together very, very late in the 2022 season, and boy, it's only year two, and if you can unearth talent like Rakuro, who scored the winning try, come off the bench and scores the winning try, if that's the sort of talent you can unearth or be inspired by coming out of a local village in Fiji, wow, I tell you what, all power to them, Paul.
Yeah, look, as I say, one of their players came from the academy midweek and wasn't expecting to play, so that was one of their wingers. Now, clearly, it's easier to integrate a winger than it is some other positions, but good to see that as well. And 17-week preseason, that's an advantage other teams have not had. We've just been talking about how some of the All Blacks have maybe had a week of preseason, if that. They've been in preseason since the beginning of November. So from that point of view, it's been they've actually got an advantage from some of the other teams. But good to see them put it out on the pitch. I'll be honest, I was a bit concerned from this year because of the number of changes they've made in their team, whereas Moana Pacific have had like 2 new players, and one of those is an injury replacement on the pitch. Look, that hasn't. They've obviously that preseason has really helped them with that. Now, Stephen's frozen up, unfortunately, and we are well over time, so I need to crack on through. Any other final comments, Steve? Because I think you've unfrozen now.
No, all good.
We'll crack on through the other games then. Highlanders 20, Blues 60. Ouch. The Blues putting in a marker there. They are definitely a contender. There's no two ways about it. I can't remember how many All Blacks it was they had on the pitch, but it was something crazy. It was definitely more than 10 to start off the game. So look, a cracking the Blues are definitely showing that they are in it to win it, as they say this year. 19 offloads, 10 line breaks for those 60 points. Look, if you're going to get 60 points, you're going to have good attacking stats. And boy, oh boy, they were there in droves. Stephen.
Yeah, no, listen, exactly. And the platform laid up front early, and you pretty much go through the names. The only two non-All Blacks, Suafua, and of course Eklund. Congratulations to Nepo Lalala playing his 100th Super Rugby game. Pretty impressive. The only thing I will say, probably when they do come up against the better teams, Paul, discipline at times is a little bit of concern, and that's those sort of unwanted penalties or needless penalties, shall I say? That's given away, and I suppose that's a little bit of concern. Other little thing for me at times, I know Beauden Barrett, very very talented player that he is, but I just thought at times he probably maybe overdid the kicking, where I really think you can learn a lot more about yourselves if you actually keep ball in hand. You've got some big running forwards in that particular team. Boy, it was almost like the Barrett brothers got together over the Christmas New Year period and practiced their grubber kicking, because all three of them were doing grubber kicks and cross kicks on the weekend. I've got to say, just from a Highlanders point of view, I tell you what, in a beaten team, I was highly impressed with Ethan de Groot and also Jerome Ainsley. I thought those two front rowers were probably the best of their pack, and a good shift from Pari Parkinson. Good to see him back. But boy, in the main, it doesn't get any easier for the Highlanders. I think they take on the Crusaders in Melbourne this weekend as well, maybe even Friday night. So not a huge turnaround for them, mate.
Yeah, tough and for many years, the Highlanders have been more than some of their parts. And so hence when we looked at their roster this year, we're like, okay, it hasn't got the star names, but hey, we know that they pull it together. Oh dear, perhaps not this year. Could be a tough one for them when you consider how strong the Blues and Chiefs are historically. The Crusaders have been. They've got to be worried with that, and also the start that the Hurricanes have made, 47-13 over the Reds. This one really surprised me. The Reds got a very stable team from last year. I really thought the Reds were going to push on, but boy oh boy, you've got to be impressed with the Hurricanes racking up that score there over the Reds, Stephen.
Yeah, well, like most games, it all starts up front, and boy, I thought they just had an edge in that particular area. I just had a funny feeling the floodgates would open in the second half, and that's exactly what happened. And I just found this Hurricanes pack up front just far too much power. The new rules, which we haven't really spoken about, tend to suit the likes of your Artie Savia when he can shoot off the back of the scrum like a bullet, or when he's given half an opportunity around the rocks. Looked really, really good. Cam Roigard is a player that they're obviously a lot's been spoken about. He looked really good in that number 9 jersey, and of course Geordie Barrett there in the 12 jersey seems to be getting better and better each time he plays, and a nice little cameo off the bench from Armour. I thought Fraser McRate played really well for the Reds, and they've got a couple of good young backs as well. Son of Tim Liner, of Michael Liner, I should say. I thought played reasonably well at first 5, but unfortunately for the Reds, I think a lot of their game was hindered by a lot of mistakes. We shouldn't forget this was played in 30-degree heat in North Queensland. Full credit to the person who decided to come up with that draw at this time of the year. Not.
Not. Yeah, exactly. Look, only 99 tackles by Hurricanes, controlled the ball, and yeah, had a great, had a cracking game there. Look, Julian Sevilla now is on 58 Super Rugby tries, only 2 behind Israel Folau on 60. Doug Howlett there on 59 is the currently leading New Zealand try scorer. Caleb Ralph and TJ Piranara both also have 58 Super Rugby tries as well. So we'll see if they can, if either TJ or Julian can get past that 60 of Israel Folau before the end of the season. It's probably looking like it. Finally then, and look, Force and Rebels, 2 teams that we're expecting to basically finish in the last 2 places, or at least in the bottom 4. A midnight kickoff. Yeah, that's all. It was all too much for me to stay up and watch this one. I'm afraid. Unsurprisingly, the Force beat the Rebels at home. Well, at home, I expected home advantage to be the difference in this one, and they saw it home. Look, the Force, by the looks of things, with only 88 tackles having to make, really controlled who had the ball, controlled possession, and that was too much for the Rebels, who ended up missing 35 tackles here. If the Crusaders hadn't been so woeful, this is probably what we would have been talking about, is a lack of defence by the Rebels, who had to do an awful lot of defending, to be honest, in this one. And well done to the Force to get themselves a win in front of the wave of blue that is their home fans.
Yeah, absolutely. Just a bit of a footnote to this match. Jeremy Thrush answering the call, coming out of retirement for Isaac Rodder, who picked up an injury in a pre-season game, and coming up with the winning try. 37 years young is Jeremy Thrush. So I have a funny feeling he'll probably get a few more games under the belt as well. And it's I believe he's actually been over there for 5 years. Over at the Western Force, so it just shows you how quick time comes, and that's coming from his period over in England, where he played for Gloucester. But all in all, not a bad sort of weekend, Paul.
Yeah, him and Kahui have both settled in well out there and are part of the rugby infrastructure. They weren't just the kind of going there through retirement fund piece of work. They've shown they've both got involved with the culture there, and it's been fantastic, and it's been very good for them. So yeah, great to see that. Wasn't there also, there was somebody I think who started one of the games who was actually supposed to be the academy coach, and then who stood up and played. I've gone blank. I can't remember who it was due to injuries, but yes, we had a couple of these players having to come in late, and that's not great. And obviously, we talked about the replacements or late replacements for the Crusaders, late replacements for the Moana and Drua. Yeah, a bit worrying there from a player welfare point of view as to how many players we're going to have left available to play when it comes to finals time. Let's hope that we don't lose too many players to injuries and they survive the season.
Well, I would imagine he would have been pretty fit, but it probably, at least it wasn't the bus driver. That might have been a bit of a tough one, Paul.
Throwing the bus driver under the bus, yes, exactly. Anyway, thank you very much, Stephen. We have run over, so thank you very much for sticking around for this way over an hour plus show. Thank you, everybody who has joined us in the live chat, and a reminder that you can support us at patreon.com/NZ Sport Radio, and we'll be back on, or the standoff show will be back to preview the opening round of NRL on Wednesday at 8 p.m. and we'll be back here on Monday at 8 p.m. as well. So have a safe time, folks, and catch you all next week.